Hello English learners. Today I am going to talk about words that connect opposing ideas. We call these ideas contrast or concession. Some of these adverbs are but, although, however, and despite. These words will help you communicate more complex ideas. They will improve the flow and clarity of your writing. Let us begin by understanding the differences between contrast and concession. Here are examples. In the first example, I used to live in India, but now I live in America. The first example shows a simple contrast. The first sentence, I used to live in India, indicates my previous place of residence. The second part of the sentence, but now I live in America, shows that I now live in another place. The statement contrasts these two different places, the one where I used to live, and the one where I live now. In the second example, even though I live in India, I work in America. Even though I live in India, tells you where I live now. But this sentence contains a surprise for my listeners. I work in America. When the opposing idea is something readers do not expect or that surprises them, we call it concession. Look at these two sentences. Mary prefers coffee, but Peter prefers tea. Although Mary usually prefers coffee, today she's drinking tea. In the first example we have a simple contrast. There's no reason why Peter should prefer coffee just because Mary does. But in the second example, we have something a little unexpected, something slightly surprising. Because Mary prefers coffee, we might expect her to be drinking coffee today, but no. She's decided to have tea instead. The second sentence is an example of concession. When something unexpected happens. Like Mary's drinking tea today. Even though we have conceded something else. That is to admit that something else is true. That Mary usually prefers coffee. Okay. Well, my friends, it is remembered that with simple contrast, we are usually comparing a similar aspect of two different people, things, or situations. And with concession, we are often contrasting two different aspects of the same person, thing, or situation. Well, friends, now take a look on how and when these words use in the sentences. Let us start with but. It's a word that links two sentences with contrasting ideas and makes them a single sentence. For example, you are old, but you are healthy. You are old is one sentence, and you are healthy is another sentence. When you link these sentences with but, you are pointing out the fact that there's a contrast between the two ideas. Old people aren't always healthy. Now see another example of same kind. I am young, but I am wise. You are young, which makes you unexperienced. But you have wisdom that comes from experience and learning. So it's a contrasting idea. Well, I hope you have understood how this word use it correctly. Alright. There are some other words. For instance, however, nevertheless, and nonetheless can be used instead of a word. But I am sure you have noticed word however in many sentences. It is a more formal way to say but is however. Consider the examples. We really wanted to go to that concert. However, we could not afford the tickets. So, here speaker wanted to see the concert with his family. But they could not afford the tickets due to high prices of the tickets. Now, take a look on another example of same kind. Car prices went up fast. However, motorcycle prices are still the same. I hope you have cleared how to use but and however in the sentences. Furthermore, you can also replace however with nevertheless or nonetheless. For examples, we really wanted to go to that concert. Nonetheless, or nevertheless, we could not afford the tickets. Another example, we have car prices went up fast. Nonetheless, or nevertheless, motorcycle prices are still the same. The idea will remain the same. However, and nonetheless, can make your sentences more formal. Well, we take a look on some other words such as although, even though, and though. Most of the people don't use these words in sentences because they don't know how to use these words correctly in the sentences. Well, although and even though are two common adverbs to express unexpected results or surprises. They are subordinators, adverbs that show that one idea is more important than the other. Here are some examples. I managed to fall asleep. Although we were watching an action movie. Here speaker tells us he can fall asleep along with watching an action movie. It's surprising for most of the people who speaker gets to manage both these activities simultaneously. In fact, we can use although in front of the sentence. For example, although we were watching an action movie, I managed to fall asleep. In both sentences, the subordinating conjunction although is attached to the clause that contains the less important idea. Although we were watching an action movie cannot stand alone as a sentence. It is a subordinate clause. So my friends, it is remembered that although is attached to the clause that contains the less important idea. In above examples, you have noticed that the sentence, we were watching an action movie, is less important idea as the sentence, I managed to fall asleep. It is also noticed that if the subordinate clause comes first, well, we also say less important idea. We must separate the two by using a comma. If the subordinate clause comes second, there is no comma. Well, we can also use even though in a similar manner. We can also use interchangeably. Here are two examples with even though. These students already know how to read. Even though they are still in kindergarten. Even though these students are still in kindergarten, they already know how to read. Well, the purpose behind using the word even though remains the same as the word although. I hope you have cleared the idea how these words are used in the sentences. Now coming to the words in spite of and despite. Again, these words such as in spite of and despite are also subordinators to show unexpected results. They also come attached to the subordinate clause. However, they require a different sentence structure. Well, this is very important line. it is noticed that they require a different sentence structure. Consider the examples. First example. That man has saved a lot of money, in spite of earning a small salary. Second example. That artist is very creative, despite having limited resources. In these examples, in spite of and despite are followed by a gerund. A gerund is the ing form of a verb which functions like a noun. In the sentences above, earning a small salary and having limited resources are gerund phrases. Despite and in spite of can also be followed by noun phrases. Let's see the examples again. My brother has managed to save a lot of money, in spite of his small salary. That artist is very creative, despite her limited resources. In both examples, his small salary and her limited resources are noun phrases. Well, in spite of that can also be used to indicate contrast or concession, but it works as a coordinating conjunction. Therefore, it is used to connect to independent clauses. Here are the examples. First example. Most students had understood the explanation. In spite of that, the teacher wrote a few more examples. Second example. It rained for almost 3 hours non-stop. In spite of that, the ground is already dry. Both these sentences, the word in spite of that is used to indicate contrast or concession, but it works as a coordinating conjunction. This brings me to an end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. The best way to master these transition words is to make up a few sentences of your own. After you start practicing, you will naturally begin to remember when and how to use these words more accurately. Try to write a few sentences using the transition words above and post them here for comments. Kindly share your experiences in the comment box below this video. Thanking you for watching us. Do subscribe to our channel. I will see you again with a new lesson. Till then, bye and take care. Hi.